Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today we are going to talk about all the books that I read the second half of the month of July. I already filmed a mid-month wrap-up where I talked about the first chunk of books. I'll review them real quickly with you here. I did a Newbery weekend vlog where I read 6 different Newbery books. I read The Midwife's Apprentice, Julie of the Wolves, Dear Mr. Henshaw, Strawberry Girl, The Cat Who Went to Heaven, and The Matchlock Gun. I also, at the beginning of the month, listened to a couple different audiobooks in my travels. I listened to Jane in Love by Rachel Givney, which was for Jane Austen July. I listened to the Masterpiece by Francine Rivers, which Becca from Hicks Picks Books was doing a group read along for that one. And I also listened to The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. I have 2 more that I read at the beginning of the month. That is Ruin and Rising, which I read with Sarah's Nightstand, Lindsay's Little Library, and the Curly Reader, Amanda. And I finished this trilogy, finally. I'm so excited. I had read the first 2 previously, but during this summer, I reread those first 2 and then finished the trilogy by reading Ruin and Rising. And then also at the beginning of the month, I read Summer at Meadowood, a middle grade book by Amy Rebecca Tan. If you want more information about my thoughts on any of those, you can go ahead and check out that link in the cards and in the description as well, and go check out that mid-month wrap up to find out more thoughts. But I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I do have 8 more books to talk about. I think I read 19 in total this month. That's crazy. But having 6 Newbery winners, which are middle grade, and a couple other middle grade in there made that number beef up, and a lot of audiobooks for the win. But let's go ahead and talk about the 8 other books that I read at the end of the month. So I do have another Jane Austen book, Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Now, I'm so glad that I listened to this book. I had in my mind that I didn't like Northanger Abbey. For some reason, it was among my least favorite Jane Austens. And it's not taking the place of Persuasion or Pride and Prejudice in my heart. It's still probably among my least favorites. I should do a ranking video. I don't think I've ever ranked them. I'll wait until I reread them all and then I'll do a ranking video. But I really enjoyed reading Northanger Abbey this summer. Or this month. I thought it was funny. I laughed out loud a couple times. I did listen to this on audio. I thought Henry Tilney was fabulous. I thought Catherine Morland was naive and kind, but so naive. And she loves to read gothic, kind of creepy books. And she works her imagination up into a frenzy throughout the course of this book. And it's just wonderful. I had so much fun reading it. So yeah, I would recommend, if you have had a block in your mind about Northanger Abbey, as I did, don't let it worry you. Listen to the audiobook, read it. It's fantastic. So much fun. It was a fun one. I wouldn't say that it moved me like some of the other ones do, but it was a very fun read and I enjoyed it. So that was great. I also talked about 100 Summers in a vlog earlier this month. This is by Beatrice Williams. I wanted to read a summer book and I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. It takes place in Rhode Island, in this little seaside town that's almost on an island, and a hurricane comes. But we do have a bit of a long lost love, but one of them is married. It's not a fantastic marriage, but I just don't like adultery in any form. And it didn't really turn into a full-on adultery situation, but it wasn't a full-on affair, but it was pushing that. And I didn't really love the characters. There was a female friendship in here that was totally unbelievable as a friendship. And that's the main backbone of this book, was this female friendship. Budgie and Lily are these 2 women who grew up together, their families vacationing at this seaside little tiny town. And Budgie and Lily are kind of lifelong friends, but never really good friends. Budgie always is taking advantage of Lily and trying to one-up her and bragging, and just never treats her like a true friend. And Lily is a bit of a pushover if I'm honest. So I just didn't really care for the characters that much in this one. I do enjoy Beatrice Williams' writing. This is not my first book by her, and it will not be my last. I do enjoy the writing. I enjoyed the setting. I enjoyed the hurricane aspect of it, which doesn't come until the very end. Yeah, so there were things that I liked about this, but in general, I didn't really care about the characters, which is a no-go for me. So I didn't love that book. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars. Another one that I ended up only giving 3 stars is another one that was on my summer list of books, Big Summer by Jennifer Weiner. And there was 2 stories in here. And again, a female friendship that's just not a great friendship, where one kind of takes advantage of the others. In this book, we follow Daphne, who is a plus size influencer on Instagram, has built this life that she really loves. But then one day her old childhood friend, Drew, comes back into her life. Drew was never really a true friend. And Drew is one of those people that is always put together, always seems like life is being handed to her on a silver platter, and kind of has it all. Drew waltzes back into Daphne's life after a pretty big fallout that went viral and kind of started Daphne's career, in a sense, on Instagram. But Drew waltzes back into her life and asks her to be the maid of honor in her wedding. And we kind of go from there. But then halfway through the book, there is a murder. And the second half is kind of like a murder mystery. Daphne gets very involved in this murder mystery, and it was strange. Not strange. It was enjoyable, like as a fluff read. I didn't love it. I don't know that I'm itching to pick up more Jennifer Weiner books. It wasn't really my cup of tea. But I did give it 3 stars because I enjoyed it all the way through. I finished it till the end. Wanted to know what was going to happen. But yeah, it wasn't anything that I'm really going to remember or need to keep. So yeah, this one's going in my unhaul pile. This one is going in my unhaul pile. They were cute, but I don't need to keep them. Then I have, 2 books that you guys know in depth my thoughts on, because I did vlog reading these 2 books. The Red Bandanna by Tom Rinaldi, which is a nonfiction about the life of Wells Crowther, and it takes place around 9/11. And man, oh man, this one made me cry. 5 stars. He just was such a remarkable young man who did end up dying in the Twin Towers, but his legacy lives on even now, 20 years later. So good one to read if you're interested in a relatively short book to read around the anniversary of 9/11. Be ready to be emotional, because he just was such a cool guy. The first part starts out with his childhood up until the point, like childhood in college and sports and getting a job in the South Tower. And then we have part 2, which is about the events of that day, 9/11. And then part 3 is more about his legacy after the fact. If you watched that vlog, you'll know I cried buckets, and yeah, it was a very emotional read for me. But I think it was fantastic, and I'm keeping that one for sure. And then the other one that I read in that video was The Lost Jewels by Kirsty Manning. I really did enjoy this one. It did only get 3 stars because I don't think it stands out as memorable to me, but it was pretty cool to learn about the history of these jewels. And I just don't think I've read historical fiction that focused on jewelry before. There were a lot of plot holes throughout, of questions that didn't really get answered, but I enjoyed the story. And so that one got 3 stars, and you can see more of my thoughts in that vlog. I did do a buddy read with Amy Bowman this month, and we read the first book in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series by Shannon Messenger. I really enjoyed this book so much. In it, we follow Sophie, who right at the beginning discovers that her life is not quite what she thought it was. She has always felt a little bit different. She is able to sometimes read the minds of others and has other little quirks about who she is, and never really felt like she fit in. Well, she doesn't fit in for good reason. And I'm not going to say more than that, but Sophie kind of goes on this whole other adventure and this whole other world as she learns more about who she is. And it is so fast paced. Right from the get-go, you are dropped right in, and you're kind of learning along with Sophie, which is sometimes really frustrating for me, because I just want to know, like, what is going on? Who are these people? Why is this happening? And I don't know, because Sophie doesn't know either. And so I understand because of that, but I also was frustrated at times. But I loved reading this with Amy, and we're planning on reading book 2 in August and continuing on with this series. So this was a really good one. I gave it 4 stars. Then right at the end of the month, I finished up People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This was my Patreon book club pick for the month of August, which was a little out of some people's comfort zone. It wasn't out of my comfort zone at all, but I was hoping to like it more than I did. I'm not going to tell you what I rated it because it is among my 5-star predictions for my NetGalley, but I knocked off another NetGalley book. And if you're a part of my Patreon book club, you will find out later today. Well, before this video gets put out, my patrons will have had a conversation about this book, so they'll get to know my thoughts. In this, we follow Alex and Poppy, who meet in college and become friends, and then they start going on vacation every year. Alex is a school teacher, becomes a school teacher, and Poppy begins working for this R&R, rest and relaxation. I don't know. R&R is the name of this travel magazine, and she gets to travel all over. Before she gets this job, their trips are always a little bit budget friendly and very different. And then once she gets this job, their trips are a lot more bougie, like a lot more fancy than they were before. And there's always kind of this will they, won't they about their friendship. They travel. They don't see each other throughout the year. They do keep in contact, texting and communicating throughout the year, but then they take this 2-week vacation every year, or about 2 weeks. It doesn't really say always how long it is, but they take this vacation every summer, and there's definitely feelings on each side, but never really gets expressed. And then something happens 2 years ago to the current day. Something happened, and then they stopped talking for 2 years. And throughout the book, we kind of travel back and forth between different vacations in the past and then the present day. So we kind of bounce back and forth, getting closer and closer to this event that happened 2 years ago and find out what happened. It's a fun summer read. I enjoyed reading it all the way through. I was invested. I wanted to know. There was definitely really good banter. Emily Henry is fantastic at writing banter and conversation between the two characters. And there were some really lovely scenes in here as well. So it's a fun summery read. I will say that. And that's all you're getting. So here are the books that I completed at the end of the month. I'd love to hear from you. What were some of your favorites from the month of July? Anything you think I should add to my TBR that you think that I would really love? What were your thoughts on some of these if you've read them as well? And yeah, anything else that you guys want to chat about? You know I love talking with you down in the comments. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps my channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that little bell so you know when I post a new video. And that's it. I'll be talking to you in another video very soon. Bye.